So as we go over, those are the three major types of Bibles. You have the Paraphrase Bible, which are written for people with reading disabilities and kids. Then you have the Thought for Thought Bibles, such as the NIV, which takes a sentence and says, all right, here's what the author meant. And then they turn it into a modern English sentence. And then you have the word-for-word translations, which would be King James, New King James, NAS, ESV. There's a lot more, but those are some of the more popular ones. The Bible is also written into sections. If you are a Protestant, and we'll talk about this some, within Christianity there are two major groups. The Catholics and the Protestants. The Protestants broke off from the Catholic Church. Within Christianity I'm talking about. The Protestants broke off of the Catholic Church. That's where they're called Protestants, because they protested. They did not like some of the things of the Catholic Church. In a Protestant Bible, you have two major sections in the Bible. You have the Old Testament and the New Testament. So in the we're going to be studying the Old Testament for this class. If you are a Catholic, you actually have a third section in your Bible, and it's called the Apocrypha. And it is between the Old Testament and the New Testament. So those will be in a Catholic Bible, but you will not find it in a Protestant Bible. There are a couple groups that don't fit in Protestant or Catholic, but they tend to go with the Protestant Bible. Some of them have extra books outside of the Bible that they would also call a holy book. Now the Jews would have the Old Testament. They believe in the Old Testament. So Jewish people would believe from Genesis to Malachi. And we'll go over, we're going to focus more on Jewish culture, because of course Christianity doesn't begin until Jesus Christ starts this movement in the New Testament. And testament actually means a covenant, or a promise or contract. So there's an old contract, an old promise, the Old Testament, which a Jew today would not call it old. They would say it's the current contract. But Christians would say that is the Old Testament. And then when Jesus came, he brought a New Testament, or a new covenant. And so that's why you have the New Testament. So like I said, in a Protestant Bible, it's broke up into two sections. The Old Testament, New Testament. Catholics have three sections: Old Testament, Apocrypha, and then New Testament. Within that, the Bible is not written in chronological order. So the Bible is actually written in sections. And we're going to talk about the first section today, which is the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And this will be a test question, which we'll have probably in 2 weeks. We'll have our first test on the first half of Genesis. About a third of the class is going to be over the book of Genesis. Genesis sets up the entire Bible. If you want to know who God is and what He's capable of, then you have to read the book of Genesis, because it really sets up how powerful He is and what His abilities are, and how He can do the rest of things that He does in the Bible. So the first section of the Old Testament is called the Torah. And it's the first 5 books, which is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Those are the first 5 books of the Old Testament. So the Bible is written in what we would call books. The Old Testament has 39, and the New Testament has 27. And the first 5 books called the Torah. Sometimes you'll hear it called the Pentateuch, sometimes the Law of Moses, sometimes called the Law. For test purposes and what most people would call it, it is the Torah. And it is, church history says that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. He didn't, nowhere in there does it say, I, Moses, am writing this. So we don't have that. That's just what church history says, is that Moses wrote these first 5 books. So as we get into the book of Genesis, we will see the beginnings. And in this, you're going to see that God is the creator. According to the Bible, He created everything that you see. Of course, science says that matter cannot be created nor destroyed. According to the Bible, everything that you see came out of nothing. That there was absolutely nothing in the universe, and God made it into being. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. One thing I want you to get is from the author's perspective, whether you think they're right or wrong, whether you think this is made up or not. From the author's perspective, they believe that they write as if God is 3 things. That He is omniscient, that he is omnipotent, and that he's omnipresent. All right, and so let's break this down. Omni means all. So omnipresent would mean all present. God is everywhere. He knows everything that's going on. You cannot hide from God. Wherever you go, God is there. No matter what part of this universe you are at, God is right there. The next thing is omnipotent. Omnipotent means that God is all-powerful. Think omnipotent, all-potent. So God has the ability to overcome anything. There is nothing that is too strong for God. God is all-powerful. And the last part was omniscient. And omniscient means that God is all-knowing. So the authors of the Bible believe, they write with that perspective that God are those three things. And being all-knowing, all-powerful, and everywhere, they kind of go together. And that God is capable of anything. And so we'll start with the book of Genesis. And in this, I'm going to give you a very brief overview. This is one flaw in the online classes, is there's not a lot of interaction. So in my classes when I lecture, oftentimes people will raise their hand and they will ask questions, and we'll go on different topics and we'll talk about different parts, and people will share their ideas, and we can go back and forth. But right now I'm in my living room talking to a video camera. So there's not going to be a whole lot of interaction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a very brief overview. Now there's reading in this, and I want you to read the entire thing. I will help you out some, especially when we get into the law, and a lot of the laws, it can seem to get mundane. It has a deep meaning, especially to a Christian. There is a reason why it's in there, but most of my reading is going to be around more of the history of Judaism and the creation of the universe. So we'll start with Genesis chapter 1. And in Genesis chapter 1, it starts with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void. So in the beginning, there was nothing. This is kind of a mind-blowing concept. What does nothing look like? Is it white? Is it black? What does it look like? Where was God at? What was God on? What was he doing all of this time? Another thing that you'll find out the Bible says is that God is that he's eternal. So he has no beginning. So how long ago, if he's all-knowing and he doesn't have a beginning, how long ago did he think about this very day? An eternity ago. Kind of a mind-blowing concept. So there was absolutely nothing. And God created the heavens and the earth. And he did it ex nihilo. And what ex nihilo means is out of nothing. Once again, that is absolutely miraculous. So this is one of those parts of the Bible that you would say that God is either supernatural, meaning he does not play by the rules of nature, or this is all made up. Now, science is the study of nature, of the natural. So how do things naturally occur? Well, the Bible is full of things that are supernatural, meaning that God broke the rules. So that he did things that man can't do, man can't reproduce, nature can't do itself. Nature cannot create itself. I can bake a cake, but I need all of the ingredients. I can't just go poof, cake. So there was nothing. And it says the deep was a darkness and over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the surface. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So this is day one. On day one, God creates the heavens and the earth, and it's void and formless. And he says, "Let there be a light," and there was this great light. Now, here's an interesting thing. This is going to be day one. And we do not have any sources of light created yet. So, of course, you would think, where does light come from? We would say the sun. We would say the stars. But sun and stars have not been created yet. They won't be created until day 4. So the question is, what is this light? What is giving off this light? And you'll hear 1,000,001 theories, and the Bible doesn't ever explain what is this light. If you wanted my 2 cents, I will say it's what we would call the Shekinah glory of God. It's just the glory of God coming down. And throughout the Old Testament, you will see God in the form of light. So good would be light, and evil would be darkness. And you'll see God show up in light multiple times. He'll come and rest in the temple that we'll talk about later that will be built. And the whole place lit up. So I believe this is just the glory of God. It's kind of like God stepping into the universe going, ta-da, here I am, and here's my glory, and that's that light. But the Bible never really explains it. So day 1, God says, let there be light, and there was light. Day 2, the world is this ball of water. And it says that he separated water from water. And so he took water and he made it go up into what he called the sky. Where did this water go? This is another one of those that the Bible never explains it. So day 2, there's a lot of theories. Some will say later on we'll talk about a flood, and they would say this is where the flood came from. All that water fell down. There was like a canopy effect on the world until that flood happened, and all the water came down. Some say it just kept going up into the sky, and it's still up there somewhere, but the Bible never explains it. So day 1, God created, he said, let there be light. Day 2, he separated water from water. Day 3, he separates the water from land. So he made dry land come up, and he made the oceans. He separated the water into the oceans, and then he made vegetation grow on the land. And he didn't just make vegetation, but he made seed-bearing vegetation. So he made vegetation that would sustain itself. So he doesn't have to keep coming down and creating more and more and more. So day 3, he created the seed-bearing vegetation. Day 1, he created light. Day 2, he separated water from water. Day 3, he separated land from water and created the land vegetation.